I'm Julie Bartkey with this session update. Senator Scott Dibble has stated repeatedly he intends to introduce legislation this session that would legalize same-sex marriage. Today, he led a news conference that affirmed that intent. The senator was joined by Representative Karen Clark and others to discuss why they think now is the right time for this proposal.
Okay. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today to this press conference. I'm State Senator Scott Dibble, and I'm joined by State Representative Karen Clark, and we'll introduce our colleagues here in just a moment. Well, today we're here to announce that we'll be introducing a bill. It'll be introduced in both on the floor of the House and on the floor of the Senate tomorrow. And what that bill would accomplish, it would simply allow folks who so desire, who have demonstrated a lifetime of love and commitment to get married, even if they're same-sex couple. Over this past 10 years, and more intensively over the past 2 years, we've had a very intensive conversation in the state of Minnesota about what marriage means, why marriage matters, and who should be able to get married in our state. I recently had a conversation with some constituents, and they made a very profound and a very simple statement. What if we were to put love at the center of everything that we debate and we discuss at the state legislature this year? The power of that idea is profound. This is a day to be very, very proud to be a Minnesotan, because Minnesotans have rallied around this unifying, this clarifying discussion about the power of love in our lives. And many, many Minnesotans over these past many years have been extremely brave, living their lives with courage, with openness, with authenticity, asking that they be granted the same freedoms that are guaranteed to everyone in our state, in our democracy, in our system of government, in our Constitution, and just by virtue of the fact that we're all human beings, equal in the eyes of God. So our challenge over these coming weeks, even though I think this shouldn't be a huge deal, but according to some people it is a big deal, is that we really, really have this discussion with renewed energy to really talk about why marriage matters, why family matters, why it's so important to come together in that commitment of a lifetime, to share the burdens of life together, to be able to ask friends and community to come and show that support, to hold us accountable to that commitment that we make in front of them, and to likewise be the source of strength and support to our family and our friends, and coming together, strengthening our community and our state. I was lucky enough to be able to get married 4 years ago under the laws of the state of California. Richard and I fell in love over 8 years ago. We got married 4 years ago. And the transformative effect of that ritual, that celebration, that coming together, that joyous day that our family came together was more incredible than words can describe. Our family understood us in a new way, even though they had been so loving and supportive throughout all the years. And since that time, we've had struggles. We've supported each other. There's nothing I wouldn't do for him. There's nothing he wouldn't do for me. We've supported our family in their struggles, helping take care of Richard's father, who's become frail. Now we're sharing in the joy of expecting a new baby that's due in May with Richard's niece. So really my message here today is we are affirming the things we value and cherish the most in our lives that we share across all of the state of Minnesota. We're affirming that thing that we all prize. Love that is the center of marriage. Changing nothing, redefining nothing. Affirming what we already know to be true and good. So we're introducing this bill in the hopes that the hearts of legislators will be touched by their constituents who are going to reach out and have this same conversation and tell their own stories about what lies at the foundation of their families and the love that they strive to achieve. And we're doing this because freedom is for everyone, democracy is for everyone. And freedom and love and democracy are all strengthened by taking this step. We'll talk a little bit about what the bill does, maybe in just a little bit, but I'll introduce Representative Karen Clark. We'll introduce our colleagues who are standing with us, and then we'll hear from some other folks.
Thank you. Well, I'll be brief. I am just so proud to be a Minnesotan today and to have arrived at this point where we're going to put into law the honoring of so many of our relationships in our community. I have to tell you a very personal story. A couple of days ago, my sister, who's 20 years younger than I am, called and said, "Karen, what day do you and Jackie celebrate your anniversary?" She knows we've been together about 23 years, and I said, well, there's several different important steps that we call the time we came together. And I said, but you know, if we pass this law, I'll be able to give you an exact date, because we'll have a wedding and an anniversary in Minnesota. And we have waited. I want Minnesota to be the place that tells me that my relationship is equal to other relationships. So I just want to say I think the journey has been long. It's been hard fought. Minnesotans spoke so loudly during this last election with refusing to adopt that proposed constitutional amendment. It was a very clear statement, and I think we're now ready to take the next step, and it means everything to our families. It means everything in terms of the kinds of responsibilities and accountabilities and rights that we will be able to exercise in the future. And I want to thank all Minnesotans for helping bring us here. So I think we're going to introduce a few of our colleagues here. Come on up. I believe, are you going to speak first? Okay. Representative Steve Simon.
Hi, I'm Steve Simon from St. Louis Park and Hopkins. It's just time. It's simply time. It seems to me around here that the laws that we pass fall into three major categories. Laws that require things, laws that forbid things, and then there's this law, which would just be a law that allows things. It's that sensible middle category. We aren't prohibiting anything. We aren't compelling or requiring anything. We're simply allowing people to do what will come naturally to them and what so many of their brothers and sisters have had the opportunity to do for so long. This bill, because it only allows a joyous occasion to occur in the lives of so many of the people that we know, won't impact anyone's faith tradition, anyone's closely held personal or religious beliefs. In fact, and although I'm not here to go through a chapter and verse, line-by-line recitation of the bill, you'll see that this bill has very strong, very aggressive, and to many people very important and comforting religious protections, so that communities of conscience and others in Minnesota who may disagree with this bill won't be compelled to do anything, won't be required to violate their own consciences. This is a live and let live proposal. And as I said, it's simply time. Thanks.
We'll introduce our colleagues who are standing with us. We have State Senator John Marty, who has himself been a tremendous leader on this effort. We have State Representative Barbara Russo, State Representative Alice Hausman, State Senator Jim Carlson, former Auditor Pat Anderson. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks for your great comments. Oh, excuse me. Oh, and Representative Phyllis Kahn. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Karen Sellers of the Minnesota Conference of the United Church of Christ. It's 135 local churches all across this state. It's more than 350 authorized ministers who serve in congregations, in colleges, in prisons, in hospitals, and more than 30,000 members. 8 years ago, in 2005, at a national gathering of our denomination, 6,000 United Church of Christ local churches and over 1 million members voted to affirm equal marriage rights for all, regardless of gender. Why did we do this? We did this because we believe that the Bible affirms human expressions of love and partnership and calls on us to live faithful and committed relationships, and that marriage carries with it significant access to institutional support, rights, and protections, that all persons are entitled to full civil liberties and equal protection under the law, and that families headed by same-gender couples should be treated no differently by our government, which is, at its core, supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. 3 years ago, in 2010, delegates to the Minnesota United Church of Christ annual meeting added their strong resolve to this denominational commitment. They called on all of our local churches to adopt wedding policies that do not discriminate against couples based on gender, and they called on me to communicate to members of the Minnesota State Legislature and to the general public our support of marriage for same-sex couples. Although the composition of the legislature has changed since my individual correspondence with each member, the conviction of the faithful Minnesotans that I represent has not changed. On behalf of the Minnesota Conference of the United Church of Christ, I call on the elected leadership in this state to support this legislation and grant same-sex couples the freedom to marry. Thousands of families are counting on this, and the time to act is now.
Good morning. I'm Michael Adam Latz. I'm the senior rabbi at Shir Tikva congregation in Minneapolis. Ecclesiastes teaches that there's a time for every purpose under heaven, and now is the time for marriage. Our congregation at Shir Tikva and our denomination support the freedom of every loving couple to be legally married and believe that same-sex couples deserve the same opportunities to be celebrated by their community and protected by the law. You guys think the press conference is hard? Try managing your kids. In addition to my duties as a rabbi, through which I've had the honor to preside over more than 200 weddings, I'm a dad. I stand here today with my beloved Michael and our daughters. We're a family in the eyes of God. We were legally married in Canada on Michael's parents' 50th anniversary last June. But right here, in my home state of Minnesota, the place where I was born, where we live, work, pay taxes, and raise our children, we are legal strangers. There are thousands of children like ours being raised by same-sex couples in Minnesota today. These children suffer each and every day that their parents are excluded from marriage. In 2013, because of the courage of a few, the Minnesota legislature has the chance to finally right this wrong. Our elected officials have the chance to ensure that all families are valued and treated equally in Minnesota. That begins with passing the legislation introduced today. On behalf of Shir Tikva, my community, and our family, I urge all the legislators to support this bill. We look forward to the day very soon, in the very near future, when our family has the same freedoms, responsibilities, and opportunities as every family in the state of Minnesota. And yes, girls, you can have a puppy.
Hi, my name is Amy Slesser, and Jesse and I have been together for nearly 16 years, and we are blessed to have 3 beautiful children, ages 6, 4, and 1, and as you can hear, the 1-year-old has a lot to say about this morning. We met at St. Olaf College in Northfield and lived in St. Paul for a couple of years before moving to New York City. We moved back to Minnesota 6 years ago to raise our family because we love this state. It's a great place for kids to grow up. And we've committed our lives to each other and to our family, but we're not yet married because we've never lived in a state where or when we've had the freedom to do so. But being able to legally marry each other and know that our family is valued in Minnesota like any other family is so important to us. We are so honored to be here today and so proud of the Minnesotans who have come together to bring marriage for families like ours to our great state. Together, we've shared in joys and supported each other in sorrows. We lived in New York City during 9/11. We grieved and mourned the loss of my father 2 years ago. And we've shared our 3 best days, the births of our children. Our children know we'll always be a family, no matter what. But we all dream of the permanence that comes from the knowledge that our neighbors and our community and our state will always treat us as a family. That comes from marriage, and there's no substitute. Unfortunately, we know that there's at least one more best day yet to come, the day we get married in Minnesota.
Good morning. My name is Paul Melkert, and as a pediatrician and as a parent, I fully support extending marriage equality to all families. I've been a pediatrician in the Twin Cities for more than 10 years and have taken care of thousands of families in sickness and in maintaining good health. No, we want to have that. My anecdotal experiences in the clinic are unequivocally echoed in the myriad studies that continue to come out from after more than 25 years of research. The children raised in same-sex couples by same-sex gendered parents fare equally well in all areas of emotional, psychosocial, and behavioral adjustment as opposite-gendered parents. It's clear that children's optimal development is influenced more by the nature of their relationships rather than the particular form that it takes. They always say don't get in public with animals and children. I'll take that. All right. Last year, the board of the Minnesota chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics bravely, unanimously voted to uphold the right of all children and all families to the legal, financial, and psychosocial security that comes from having legally recognized parents who are committed to each other and to the welfare of their children. Security obviously comes through love and commitment, not from sexual orientation. The rights, benefits, and privileges that come from a legally recognized marriage cannot be obtained by any other means. All families benefit from the reassurance that comes from knowing that your family is safe and secure. I'd like to introduce my husband, James. You've met Emmett, and his twin brother, Gabriel, who will be turning 4 next month. James and I were united in our church in a ceremony of holy union, witnessed by our family and by our closest friends. And we'll be celebrating our 7-year anniversary in April. We are fortunate to have the unwavering love and support of both of our families. And we have protected our family through the limited means that's available through our current legal system.
I wanted to stop talking.
You didn't hear that, did you? However, what we have is not equal, and not all families have the same access to resources and the same support that we're fortunate to have. This places them at higher risk financially and places them also at risk for access to health insurance and to health services. Extending the freedom to marry to all loving and committed couples is in the best interest of all children and families like ours and thousands of others throughout the state. The rights, benefits, and protections for all people will continue to strengthen every family, families like ours. I'm done.
Doctor, could you spell your name for us?
M-E-L-C-H-E-R-T.
Paul. Paul, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We have a few minutes for questions. I did want to mention that Senator Brandon Peterson, a co-author of this bill, has some in-district meetings, can't be here today, but he has a statement available, so you can see Jake Loesch if you'd like Senator Peterson's statement.
Senator, when would gay marriage become legal under this bill?
Good question.
January 14th. January.
Yeah, I don't think we have an actual effective date, so the default effective date would be August 1st.
Senator Simon touched on it a little bit, but I wondered if you might capsulize for us again this first page, the religious exemptions.
Yeah, very quickly and very simply, we have included language in the bill in a couple of different places, actually, that simply affirm what is already true, and that is no religious congregation or clergy or those facilities that are owned and operated in furtherance of a religious mission on a nonprofit basis would either have to solemnize or perform a marriage that they don't agree with or cater to a marriage for, this is what we call, of course, the Knights of Columbus Hall language. Knights of Columbus Hall wouldn't have to host a wedding reception that they didn't want to host.
Senator, along those lines, some Republicans who are nervous about this might be more comfortable if there were exemptions for some small business. And the records in some of the other states.
Right.
Are you open to that?
No state has actually allowed that, and that gets into a whole different area. We're not seeking to eliminate civil rights and non-discrimination statutes in the public square, and open up the Human Rights Act so that businesses that are open to the public to provide services on a for-profit basis can otherwise discriminate. That's not appropriate.
And I might mention that we've had 20 years of using that language in the Minnesota Human Rights Act with no problems.
And conscientious objections, then, that's what it would be called, wouldn't it? A conscientious objector?
We live in a civil society that doesn't permit discrimination on the basis of race, sexual orientation, on a number of other bases. Marriage does not confer, nor does not expand, nor contract. Does not create additional rights, does not limit folks' rights that already exist. We maintain the state of affairs in this state as it is.
Question for both of you: do you have the votes now? And the other question is, could you do this solely with Democrats?
I don't know if we have the votes right now. I think we're close, but it's going to be a lot of hard work. And so my message today at this press conference is for folks to engage. That's what we have the legislative process for, so that folks can be in communication and relationship and contact with their elected representatives. That's what we have the committee hearing process for. I think we're close. I don't know if we're there. And again, I can't answer your second question because I just don't have the nose count, but I do know that this is not a partisan issue, that this is an issue that is shared broadly because the values that this speaks to are the values that unite us, and they're much, much more important than those values that divide us.
It's not a partisan issue. You are seeking Republican votes. You'd like to have Republican votes. You want this to be bipartisan.
Absolutely. We expect to have Republican votes, yes.
Senator, leadership has not exactly embraced this policy issue yet that they're calling it. Senator Bach here 2 weeks ago in this very room saying that, look, we're not going to allow this to come up until after budget is in conference committee. Are you worried that leadership is not giving you the support that you would like?
No, we have very strong support from our leadership. To put a finer point on, I think what leadership has been trying to communicate is that this issue is one of many policy issues that are queuing up on the calendar. If you've seen the general orders calendar, a number of policy issues are queuing up. And we're not going to really get to the bulk of those policy items until after we've really established some progress on some of the larger themes that this session has been really trying to prioritize. DFL is now in the majority, working with the DFL governor, and a big goal that we have, of course, is making sure that we have a fiscally balanced budget solution, that our tax system is fair and progressive, and that we're doing well by families supporting investments in the middle class. This is actually a part of that larger theme. This is about families being able to do well by each other. As is evidenced by the crowd in this room, this is an issue, if you put it out there, it gets a lot of attention really, really fast. And we have a lot of stuff that we're trying to work on that has a broad base benefit. We don't want to fall into the Twin Stadium trap, is what I call, in which you say the word Viking Stadium, and all of a sudden that's all the reporters want to write and talk about. So this is about sequencing a debate and a policy item and a conversation in good order for the good of the overall session, because there's a lot of stuff that we need to accomplish this year.
And I would say, I would just say we have strong leadership support all the way to the governor's office.
Senator and Representative, there's going to obviously be national money, probably a fair amount of it, that's going to come to bear to try to defeat this initiative. How do you counteract that, given that there are some lawmakers, certainly in the House is going to be up for election first, who are reluctant to go this far, despite the defeat of the marriage amendment? How do you counteract the national pressure?
Well, money is just one factor in a large debate. And I've seen big money rein in on this legislature when a corporate interest is threatened, for example, and 45 well-dressed lobbyists parachute in. You see them; they come and their parachutes drop in right over the campus, from all over the country. And I've still seen the power of engagement of constituents overcome all of that well-heeled influence. And I think that is going to be the name of the game. Folks need to be, like I said earlier, in relationship and in conversation with their elected representatives.
And I would just say we had a trial run with a constitutional amendment, and the people of Minnesota spoke loudly and clearly, and I think my conversations with legislators indicate that many of them are paying attention to that vote.
Can you make the leap from the results of that vote to support for gay marriage, that the other side will argue that the outcome of that vote was not necessarily an endorsement of the concept of gay marriage?
It is, I'm not surprised they're saying that, because that's about the only refuge they have to hide. But here's the truth. If you paid attention during that 18-month campaign that we had, the conversation that we had, and review the record closely, the newspaper articles, the paid media, and the nature of the grassroots conversations that we launched hundreds of thousands of times over. That conversation was, what is marriage all about? Why does marriage matter? Marriage is for everyone. Freedom is for everyone. Love is love. We enter into that commitment of a lifetime, and we pick up the same rights and responsibilities. It was.
You were watching the news conference led by Senator Scott Dibble. Now, the group that advocates for marriage to remain a union between a man and a woman is about to react to this proposal. Let's go live to room 125 for a news conference led by Minnesota for Marriage.
The 8th week of session. It's a very, very busy week, so we're grateful that they've taken a few minutes to come and stand in support of our current marriage law and keeping marriage as between one man and one woman. We do have several Republicans and Democrats alike who were unable to be with us today due to their busy schedules and the busyness of a Wednesday here at the Capitol, but we are grateful for their support nonetheless. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce John Helmberger. He is chairman of Minnesota for Marriage and CEO of the Minnesota Family Council, for some brief remarks.
Thank you, Autumn. Introduction of the bill to legalize gay marriage in the state of Minnesota this morning, or rather the announcement of the pending introduction of the bill, comes as no surprise to us. It's exactly what we warned would happen throughout the last year and a half. Without a constitutional amendment protecting the definition of marriage in our state from lobbyists and legislators who are determined to change it. It is a huge mistake to believe the lie that the November election outcome was a mandate to legalize gay marriage. On the contrary, voters clearly said that they want to keep the status quo with respect to marriage, that our state marriage law is adequate, as opponents of the amendment disingenuously argued throughout the campaign. Recent Survey USA poll results reflect this. The majority of respondents said they want our marriage law left the way it is. The legislators gathered with us today, along with many others who could not join us, understand this and support Minnesota's marriage law.
Next, we do have a few of our representatives and senators who have some remarks they'd like to share with you. They can introduce themselves to you, but first I'd like to introduce Senator Warren Limmer.
Good afternoon. My name is Warren Limmer. I'm the ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee. And if you remember, I was the chief author of the marriage amendment back in 2011, which brought this decision to the public. I've been hearing a lot of things about the justification for same-sex marriage bill that was introduced today. The most surprising one is that somehow it's a mandate from the people. The result of the marriage amendment was a mandate from the people that justifies same-sex marriage. Well, it is in no way a mandate from the people of Minnesota. The people simply said that they didn't want to include the definition of marriage as it's written in Minnesota state law and include it in the state constitution. There was never a discussion. Matter of fact, the opponents often said, as they justified and tried to get voters to vote for their side of the issue, they claimed that there's no need for change, that Minnesota's law of DOMA law will not change if we vote no. I'm just amazed that now the rules have changed when it involves an opportunity to pass a bill versus what it was back prior to the November election. You know, we commonly get into this all the time. Justification is for a moment, and then when things do change in your favor, then there's a rush. The very rush of redefining marriage in a radically new and different direction it was not considered by the public in November's election. Matter of fact, I know of personally a concentration of senior voters who were convinced by telephone calls that if they voted no on the amendment, they were actually voting against gay marriage. So there's lots of reasons to believe that Minnesota's public is not ready for same-sex marriage, and nor are they ready for the legislature to take it upon themselves to change it at this time.
Good afternoon. I'm State Representative Glenn Gruenhagen, House District 18B. I'm a strong supporter of traditional marriage, and I oppose any redefinition of marriage. The primary reason is from an economic and from an educational standpoint. There's over 2,500 studies in the social sciences that confirm the benefits of traditional marriage for men, women, and especially children. I have two of those studies in front of me. The first one is from the 2007 California State University in Long Beach, and it shows that if the government simply reinforced traditional marriage, not only could you reduce the achievement gap among our students and children, but you could actually eliminate it without spending hundreds of millions of billions of dollars. Okay? And we all know we have a huge problem in the state of Minnesota with the achievement gap. The second study done by the Heritage Foundation, specifically for Minnesota, shows that if the government simply reinforced traditional marriage, you could lift 90% of the children in poverty out of poverty. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. So those two studies bring into question why we want to redefine marriage, and secondly, why does the government for the last 50 years have policies that actually undermine marriage, whether it's our welfare system, the marriage penalty in the state and federal tax code, and I could go on and on. Finally, I support traditional marriage because if we redefine it, it will produce mandated curriculum into our public schools. And I have examples of that curriculum along. And I think if the average parent saw what that curriculum taught, they would not want it to their children. Finally, we are not talking about, when we're talking about gay marriage, we're not talking about an immutable characteristic, like the color of your skin, okay? The human genome map was completed in 2003. There is no gay gene, okay? So the concept that you're born that way and it's an immutable characteristic is an unscientific lie, okay? The human genome map has been completed. I urge you as the news media to give both sides a fair and open hearing on this debate because it has tremendous ramifications, not only for our society, but for our children in general. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Representative Peggy Scott. I represent Andover and Northern Coon Rapids and one precinct in Ramsey. Thank you for being here today. And no matter what form this bill takes, the debate over this issue needs to be very transparent. The public, above all, needs to know what the impacts of a decision like this, of a law like this, would be. For example, the impact of redefining marriage on religious liberties reaches far beyond concern for clergy being forced to marry gay couples that are wanting to be married at a church that disagrees with that. So again, I just hope that this process is transparent and that the truth comes out to the people of Minnesota on the long-term ramifications of this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Senator Dan Hall from Burnsville. I want to come at it with a similar angle, religious liberty. Religious liberty, again, goes far beyond the church. It also has to do with businesses, schools, charities, nonprofits alike. As a member of the clergy that I am, this bill says I won't have to perform marriages, and yet what will the bill next year look like? It'll change. Once you open the door, you're not going to be able to shut it. I'll tell you today, there have been many professionals in other states that have been taken to court on this issue of not performing or not being a part of a wedding ceremony. I personally will go to jail before I ever perform a marriage to a homosexual.
Hi, I'm Senator Paul Gazelka from the Nisswa area. We all are approaching this from slightly different views. Some of the things we share are the same, some are different. But what I wanted to say and highlight is I think basic rights should be available to all, but marriage is uniquely between a man and a woman, and we should not redefine it. So there is a place that I think we can find somewhere in that area. If we pass gay marriage, religious rights, parental rights, business rights are all going to be infringed. There will be changes, and you can just look at other states or look to the north in Canada, and you can see that there clearly are changes. Last year, DFL legislators argued that we did not need a constitutional amendment because marriage was in our statute, which is true, but that premise and why they brought it out was not true, because you see some of those same legislators now promoting gay marriage. This, to me, is just another example of the DFL overreach, one of many issues. Thank you.
All right, with that, I'd like to make two final brief points before we open it up to y'all for some questions. And the first is, I think this morning's bill introduction really highlights the important point that Minnesotans as a whole need to be reaching out to their legislators at this point and letting them know that they did not send their legislators to St. Paul to redefine marriage, that the marriage amendment's defeat was certainly not a mandate for that, and the time has indeed come. It's come for Minnesotans to reach out to senators and representatives alike, offer them support for folks like those behind me who stand in support of our current marriage law, and then encourage those who may be still deciding on the issue that as their constituents, they do not want marriage redefined in our state. That doesn't align with Minnesota values. That doesn't align with who we are. And then secondly, this morning, I know in the press conference, it was noted that there is a religious liberty protection added to the gay marriage bill. While no doubt well-intentioned, it needs to be pointed out that that religious liberty protection doesn't even scratch the surface of the religious liberty implications. Some of the representatives and senators gathered behind me briefly touched on that. What happens is, excuse me, we see that when marriage is redefined, that impacts every state policy and law. It doesn't occur in a vacuum. And so then state anti-discrimination laws can in turn be used as a weapon to punish those who disagree with the state's new law based on religious reasons. And so it's important to realize that the religious liberty implications extend far beyond clergy being forced to marry people they disagree with marrying. As Senator Gazelka mentioned, it extends to parents, it extends to individuals, private business owners. And so the religious liberty protection that's been offered to this bill doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the implications of gay marriage for our state. And as Representative Scott said, this needs to be a very transparent and open debate as we consider what the implications of, quite frankly, this engagement in social experimentation is. This is a very new thing. Any states that have redefined marriage have only done so within the last decade, and we need to go into this discussion with our eyes wide open. Thank you. Yeah, hi, sorry. I'm Autumn Leva. I'm the Director of Governmental Affairs and Communications for Minnesota for Marriage. Yep. Questions?
To Senator Limmer's point, Senator, you talked about the outcome of the vote and Minnesota for Marriage warning voters that failing to pass the amendment could result in what has now happened. Doesn't that show, in a sense, that voters actually knew the consequences and they didn't pass the amendment anyway?
No.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is never once would anyone who read the bill, who read the referendum question, would ever come to a conclusion like that. The question, as you might recall, was, should the Minnesota Constitution be changed to define marriage simply between one man and one woman? There wasn't a multiple. This was not a multiple choice question for the voters. This was simply, do we want to put that definition that was in existing state law into our state constitution? Plain and simple.
Senator, are there enough votes to defeat this particular bill?
I don't know. I haven't done a head count. As of this morning, we thought that there was a gathering cloud coming toward the Capitol, that it might happen, but I don't have a hard count on that yet.
Senator Hall, one of the most important parts of this bill from the supporters say that there is a religious exemption. Can you tell us why you think there is not, judging from your comments, that you'll go to jail before you perform it?
And I said there is that in there, and but what will happen this year could be changed next year. So it's a slippery slope, and I think, like many ministers, there is no way that we're going to allow ourselves to be put in a situation that we would have to perform a homosexual marriage.
Well, just help me with this. Is that happening in other places?
I know for other businesses, but clergy not yet. Well, hopefully never. Yeah.
Can I add to that one too? Because religious rights are not just about a pastor choosing who to marry. If you look at the Catholic Church in both Massachusetts and California, as a religious organization, they participated in adoption. They often adopted some of the most troubled kids, and their religious belief said it should only be with a married couple that's a man and a woman. The court, or basically because of how the courts ruled, the state said you must now marry to a same-sex couple, and they said, well, that's going to violate our rights, so they had to step away. So that was a major religious infringement that would not have happened had the laws remained the same.
Where that is?
Massachusetts and California. Massachusetts.
They must perform.
They must adopt to a same-sex couple.
Which is a little different than performing the ceremony.
True, but your original question about religious rights, I wanted to say it encompasses more than just, a pastor being able to marry or not marry.
It's something they're calling the Knights of Columbus exemption, where you don't have to rent out your Knights of Columbus Hall for a gay marriage ceremony.
And one other example I'll give is parents in Massachusetts where they wanted to withhold their kids because they didn't want them being taught in elementary school, whether it's Heather has two mommies or whatever, and usually that's based on a moral religious conviction. They were not allowed to take their kids out, so there definitely is a collision between religious liberty and sexual liberty here. One is in the Constitution, the other one is not.
And Pat, the fact that the provision is in the bill simply highlights and underscores the reality that this is a significant concern that exists in the real world. And religious liberty should never, ever be at the whims of legislative action. 2 years, 4 years, 10 years from now, if they're hanging their hat on this provision in the bill and it becomes law, that provision can go away. Religious liberty is inherent, innate. It should not be bestowed legislatively. And the fact that it's in the bill demonstrates that that's a serious concern. And it extends beyond the clergy. I'm a father of a number of children. Mostly they've been privately educated. A lot of that was driven by some desire for religious education. And let me just connect a couple of dots for you there. We're going to have some anti-bullying legislation. And from what I'm hearing, I don't know if it's been introduced yet, but from what I've been hearing, they want to extend that to private education. Can you connect the dots there? We're not going to be able to potentially, in a private institution, teach some biblical standards on homosexuality if you're a Christian. There are significant concerns, and the fact that that provision is in the bill simply highlights that that's a reality.
Let me get back to another question that was previously asked me, the question of, do I have a head count? I don't have a head count, but the one thing that is significant that you must know is that 75 of the 87 counties in the state of Minnesota, 75, their populations voted for the marriage amendment, upholding a traditional view of marriage. We have a lot of new senators and representatives, many of them Democrat, that come from that area. I think in order to get a head count, you're going to have to ask them, are you going to vote against the wishes of your public as outlined in November's election in your county, or are you going to go down your own path? That's the biggest question, and that's the question I don't have an answer to. But that's the one focus of this entire debate. The end result will depend entirely on DFL votes in rural Minnesota.
Have you thought about proposing alternate legislation, perhaps civil unions, or even a constitutional amendment? You say that this is not the will of the people. Have you thought about talking to Democrats about doing a constitutional amendment?
I haven't as of this time.
Are you going to be doing anything to persuade those DFL legislators to vote against this bill? Is there any effort?
I try to persuade Democrats on almost every issue around here. Sometimes, on rare occasion, they might even listen to a few of us.
Could you expand on that a little bit, though? What kind of lobbying presence are you guys going to have at the Capitol? What kind of things are you going to be doing?
Sure. Well, of course, the lobbying presence at the Capitol, we are directly lobbying some of the legislators, but also our lobbying efforts are very much grassroots based. As Senator Limmer was saying, this is the time for folks to be reaching out to their legislators and saying, look, I'm your constituent. The marriage amendment passed by a strong percentage in your district, sometimes by an even greater percentage than what the candidate was elected by. Are you going to go against me? This is not the time to do that. So that's really where our efforts are focused. Of course, we were the Marriage Amendment Campaign Organization, so it's our job to educate voters that now we're not trying to get every single vote and tell people to vote yes. We're switching. We need to encourage you to reach out to your legislators. That's exactly what we're doing. And Baird, to get back to your question about alternative legislation, you know, I think if this were completely fair and transparent conversation about marriage, about, as our opposition claims, about rights and benefits and things like that, then we need to be laying out all the options on the table. There needs to be a discussion about civil unions. Who's for that? Who's against that? There needs to be a discussion about reciprocal beneficiary arrangements, which is a strong private law contractual arrangement in which any two people who can't otherwise be married can, in fact, get some of those rights and benefits, like inherit from one another, insurance beneficiaries, that type of thing. All of these things need to be laid on the table, and they're not. Quite frankly, our opponents are going straight for marriage without any further discussion, without addressing all the consequences that will have on Minnesota, and that's not fair. That's not fair to Minnesotans.
You're quite possibly going to have some Republicans who will flip on this and support this gay marriage bill. Is there going to be any political retribution from your organization, Minnesotans for Marriage, where you will campaign against them if they do, coming up in the next election?
We'll have to see. We know Senator Peterson already has. Yes, we're aware of that.
And how much outside money do you anticipate is going to come in? National money you think is going to come in? And are you having any conversations with any national organizations about beefing up the effort, depending on how far this goes this session?
Well, National Organization for Marriage is a coalition partner of Minnesota for Marriage. In case you're unaware, Minnesota for Marriage is a coalition. Some of its largest coalition partners are National Organization for Marriage, the Minnesota Catholic Conference, and Minnesota Family Council, in addition to the tens and thousands of individual Minnesotans, as well as organizations, churches, things of that type. So we are a coalition. So of course support does come in from National Organization for Marriage, but right now it is largely grassroots supported.
Do you anticipate a fair amount of money coming in? Is this fairly high on their radar screen, this impending battle here in Minnesota?
Well, I mean, it is National Organization for Marriage. They care about the marriage battles in all the states. I know they're working in Illinois as well as Minnesota right now, and some of the others. One
final, if I may. How closely are you working with the Archdiocese, the Catholic Archdiocese, on this? Do you anticipate that their level of involvement will match what it was during the campaign to try to pass the marriage amendment?
I think I'll let Jason Adkins, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference, address that question.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Adkins. I am the Executive Director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference and an Executive Committee of Minnesota for Marriage. I just want to make 2 points. First of all, with regard to the question about will Minnesota for Marriage become essentially a political action committee and be punishing candidates, the answer to that question is emphatically no. That's the job of other organizations who are engaged in these conversations and these debates. The purpose of Minnesota for Marriage is primarily to preserve the definition of marriage currently in statute in Minnesota, and that conversation will continue, but we will not be engaging as an organization, Minnesota for Marriage, in political campaign battles against particular candidates. I also wanted to point out, too, that there are a number of Democrats who have already come on record as supporting our position, and that should be known as well. So I hear a lot of coverage in the media about Republicans flipping and going the other way on this issue, but there are Democrats out there who are supporting marriage, and statistically there are stronger numbers of, a stronger percentage of Democrats who support marriage than Republicans who oppose it. I also want to say in particular with regard to that question, the Minnesota Catholic Conference is a supporter of Minnesota for Marriage and a coalition member, and we will be opposing the bill And as far as particular strategy or outreach, that's being considered right now, and we'll be discussing that further. I want to make one point, too, and just to crystallize what this debate is about. We really need to focus on what the real issue is here. It's not about the subjective reasons why any two people want to get married. The question is, as a public policy matter in front of this legislature, is do we need an institution in civil law that connects marriage and connects children to their biological parents? That is the question. That's what we're debating here as a public. That is what marriage is. That's what marriage does. It's a reality that unites a man and a woman to any children born from their union. It serves important public policy purposes, and those need to be considered and those need to be discussed. By erasing mothers and fathers from our public policy, we're communicating that it doesn't make a difference if you have both a mom and a dad. The kids can be raised without both a mother and a father, that either is irrelevant. And that's wrong. We shouldn't be lying to children, and this debate is about the future of our children. Thank you.
Who are the Democrats that you referred to earlier?
Do you anticipate that Archbishop Nienstedt is going to be involved in a campaign against this particular bill at the level that he was in support of the marriage amendment?
Well, the Minnesota Catholic Conference is the public policy arm of the church, and we will be opposing the bill and communicating to Catholics that they should oppose the bill as well. As for particular strategies, now that we've seen a bill today, that's under discussion.
Who are the Democrats that you referred to earlier?
Senator Leroy Stumpf has, as far as I am aware, has come on record, and I believe Senator Lau Kunin as well.
Do you have a viewpoint on Representative Gruenhagen's comment that being gay is something people can help?
No, that's not something that we take a position on. The issue is not primarily about homosexuality. The issue is about what is marriage, why is it important, and what is the public good that marriage serves. People can have their own particular views about those sorts of matters. That's not something that the Minnesota for Marriage takes a position on. I respect Representative Gruenhagen. He's an articulate defender of marriage, but that's not something that Minnesota for Marriage speaks to specifically.
Well, Representative Gruenhagen, will you answer that? Do you think this is a lifestyle choice, that it's not a genetic choice, people are not born gay?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. It matters what the scientific facts are. And again, the human genome map was completed in 2003. There is no gay gene. And the result is that it is a sexual choice versus an immutable characteristic, such as the color of your skin or your ethnic background or whatever it might be. The facts are in on that. That's not really disputable. And to continue to report that people are born that way simply does not line up with repeatable, observable scientific facts. One other question about the bill and religious liberty. You know, regardless of what's in the bill, we know that activist groups can bring lawsuits against bills. And our courts have sometimes had a history of activist decisions. So, I mean, a lawsuit against the bill, regardless of what provisions you have in there to protect children or religious liberty, can obviously be struck down by a court over a period of time. And we know that there were court cases already in Minnesota attempting to overturn DOMA.
I have some questions about the studies that you were talking about. Was that looking at the number of parents in a household, or was that looking at the sex of the actual parents? Because I'm just wondering when you're
in
talking
relationship to the 2,500 studies?
Well, the two that you were just citing before, I'm just wondering, is this something that was looking at single
I think I
parent
can talk to you
households?
offline on that. I've got copies of the study. You can find them on the internet, and there's also organizations that can forward them to you. To get into the weeds of the particular study, I don't think it's probably appropriate at this time.
Representative, at the news conference this morning announcing the bill, there were several families, same-sex couples and their children here. Are you saying that those children and those particular families might be at risk of some kind? Or?
Let me just answer that briefly. It doesn't matter what my opinion is, okay? It matters what the studies and the facts are. And the latest study, this is out of the Washington Times, it was the largest study by Mark Regerness, a sociology professor at the University of Texas. And it's the gold standard in terms of how children fared in traditional marriage situations versus with homosexual or gay couples. Over 3,000 randomly selected American young adults. And the overwhelming conclusion of that study is that children fare better when they have a mom and a dad, because moms and dads bring unique characteristics to children that no other set of relationships can do. Okay? Now, that's not my opinion. That's the conclusion of the study. And you can find the study. Obviously, the Washington Times found it. And just do your research, which I believe you're paid to do. And you can find those studies. Thank you.
All right. I think we'll take one last question, if anybody has one.
You spoke about Democrats from areas that voted against the amendment. What about the opposite of that, Republicans from areas that voted against it? I believe your own district voted against it, if I'm not mistaken.
My district did vote against it. 52% voted against the amendment.
Do you feel any responsibility to reflect that in your own decisions on the issue?
That's a rather close election in my district. There was a significant portion of people that didn't vote at all in my district. So being the chief author of the amendment, no. However, there are senators in areas that have very significant votes for the marriage amendment, much larger than 52%, some in the mid-60s. And the only advice I would give to those senators and representatives in the legislature is I caution you to go against the will of your public. And I think especially by a sizable vote. I think that's the last question for us today. We thank you for coming.
A no vote does not equate to...
It's not the last question.
What is the last question? But a no vote did not equate to support for same-sex marriage. Let me repeat that. A no vote on the ballot did not equate to support for same-sex marriage. A yes vote absolutely was a vote in opposition. So there's a difference. There's a marked difference between districts where there was a large majority yes and maybe a smaller majority no, because not every no vote was in support of same-sex marriage. They just simply said current law is adequate for us.
Thank you for coming.
With that, thank you very much. That concludes the press conference.